So the calibration program is loaded in, and the function of the calibration program is selected with these dip switches. When they're all raised up in this position, when I switch on, the LCD screen will show you the function, which is drive mode. So drive mode means that the middle button will just drive the robot for 2 seconds, and we can just assess how straight it's driving. Obviously it's not driving very straight, so what we can do is use the functions to center the steering. So the first function is the middle one, is the front steering. So the very top dip switch, which goes down, will allow the front steering motor to be increased or decreased. So by pressing the left or the right buttons, you can see that the steering moves more to the right, or if I press the right hand button, it moves more to the left. So visually you can just assess when you believe it's to be straight. So I'll just move it so it looks about straight. When you think it's straight, then you can press the center button, which will then store it. And you can do the same for the rear. Obviously the rear wheel isn't straight, so I take the first dip switch off and then I put the last dip switch down. And then we have the rear steer control. So obviously this is way too much to the left, so I can just keep pressing this until it looks about straight, making sure that you can always lift it up and making sure that friction isn't there. And then when you believe that the rear one is straight, then you press the middle button and that will store it. So now it's stored the offsets, and now that becomes straight for both of them. Okay, so we can test it out again by lifting all of the dip switches up, and then it goes back into drive mode. So we can drive it. So it seems fairly straight, and it might be iterative, so it moves slightly to the left. So in that case I can change maybe the front wheels slightly steer, sorry, it went off to the right, so I can steer it slightly to the left and then store it with a middle button, so it stores that offset. What you can also do with the front wheels is you can set the maximum steer angle. So that is the first 2 dip switches are down, and what you can do is move the wheels one way and the other. So if I move it to its maximum to the right, it's approximately 45 degrees. So you can move this around, and it's always a good idea just to see if the wheel is rubbing against the chassis. So that's a good, maybe that's a good place for maximum. You could always make it a little bit more if you wanted, and then you can press the middle button to store, and it will read whether the wheel is to the right or to the left. If it's to the right, then it stores it as a maximum value, so it's now stored that as maximum, and then I can store a minimum. Again, noticing there's a bit of flexibility in the drive to the steering wheels, so you do have to lift it up. Of course, that is reduced when it's actually driving. Now you can see that that will possibly rub against the cables, so I might not want to make that as severe, so I might reduce that maximum a little bit. Okay, so it's definitely free there. It just happens to be -30, but that's okay. It's going to be different for each angle, and then store it, and then that's stored the minimum angle. Now that is stored in the EEPROM, so it won't make any difference to this drive control. When I raise all of those dip switches again, it should be steering straight again. So that's your basic steer calibration.